I get it. It's spring training. I shouldn't overreact to something I saw over a baseball game in February. But I don't even remember the two guys that the Astros traded and let walk this offseason after what I saw from Cam Smith today. We'll react to what we heard from DeMeco Ryans at the NFL Combine. We're going to make fun of a couple of NFL teams that haven't exactly had the best last couple of days or weeks in the case of one of those two teams. And I'll admit why I'm a little bit burnt out with sports right now. I'm Paul Gallant, and this is the Gallant Says podcast.
A radio show host in Seattle called Paul Gallant.
Paul Gallant's wondering the same things a lot of people wonder.
You are definitely living in the hindsight world today, Paul.
Do you feel there's been a consistent theme with the interceptions?
I think every interception really has a different story.
I was just kind of curious what Paul gets to see.
Are you kidding me? Paul Gallant, what the hell is wrong with you?
Hello and welcome aboard the Gallant Says podcast. It is Tuesday, February 25th, 2025, live on YouTube at Paul Gallant. If you're a first-time watcher, please subscribe and like this video. This is where you get the best possible experience of the show. You can also watch it on Twitch at Gallant Says. Give me a sub if you can. On X and Twitter at Gallant Says. On Instagram at Sports Gallant. And on Facebook at Paul Gallant Sports, Monday through Friday, generally around 4 p.m. Central Time. You can occasionally catch it after major Houston sporting events as well. I apologize for the late start today because it is 6:30. We had a post-show meeting today. Fun times, hanging out with Joe George, with Sean Mapes, discussing the future of that show on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. All good things. I'm taking a 3-day break for the next couple of days, so this will be the actual last live stream for a couple. We'll be back at it on Monday, which is, damn, is it already March? Holy crap. March 3rd is when we will be back. But there are some things to dive into, and let's just start with what Cam Smith did today for the Houston Astros. You might remember Cam Smith as the super prospect and probably the creme de la creme of the Astros trade for over the last couple of weeks, where they moved on from Kyle Tucker. They sent him to Chicago. They bring in Isaac Paredes, a third baseman or infielder who seems to project well for formerly Minute Maid Park, now Daikin Park. They get Hayden Wesneski, a pitcher from the greater Houston area who you would imagine, just given the way that the Astros coach pitchers to be their absolute best, is a high upside kind of guy. We saw him actually today. But Cam Smith, who has been described as an aircraft carrier, whatever the fuck that means, is the big piece that everyone was excited to see in spring training. And it's February baseball. It doesn't mean that much. But my God, Cam Smith hit 2 opposite field home runs today at spring training. His numbers? And I saw this courtesy of Michael Schwab posting this. You can see it for yourself because numbers generally translate when you can see them. At a point this spring, this is what Cam Smith's numbers looked like. I mean, that's pretty damn good, huh? Batting average, 1,000. On-base percentage, 1,000. Slugging percentage, 4,000. OPS, 5,000. He is already the greatest Astro of all time, if he keeps this up. Obviously, he's not going to keep that up. But good God, man, that is fantastic to see this guy get 2 home runs right away. And already we're seeing people doing touchdown dances over Cam Smith. I've seen so many people online saying, yeah, Dana Brown, he won the Kyle Tucker trade. And I mean, it was a nice day for Dana Brown. I believe he was either on the radio broadcast or the TV broadcast, and someone transcribed him as saying, in the Kyle Tucker trade, the Astros traded 1 year of control with Kyle Tucker for 13 years of control. Kind of offensive to say. Talk about control in 2025, sir. Talking about owning another person. But they traded 1 year of control for Tucker for 13 years of control, 3 with Paredes, 4 with Wesneski, 6 with Cam Smith. Lots of control and clearly lots of power with Cam Smith. Cam Smith was asked about his 2 home run performance after the game. This is courtesy of Brian McTaggart of the MLB Network.
Get those 2 homers. What was that moment like?
I can't even describe it, but it feels like the best feeling in the world. It's a blessing just to get opportunities to get in there, whether you're starting the game, whether you're getting the back half of the game. It's just to see that caliber of pitching this early, it's huge as a ball player.
What was your approach on those at-bats? You laid off some tough pitches, too, before the homers.
Yeah, so the main thing was, get that fastball. Don't be late on it, and, see it and hit it.
Do you feel like a lot of your power is to the opposite side, or is that just kind of how it played out today?
Yeah, I like to believe that that's where I'm most comfortable, like lifting the ball in the air. I've seen, balls I hit pull side in the air, but I do like to go that way generally.
Hell yeah. And that's a flex at the end. Yeah, I like to go opposite way generally. Fuck yeah, dude. That means you're a great hitter, conceptually. Paul, you're a baseball casual. You don't know what you're talking about. That is true. That said, fuck it. Cam Smith, he's already on the opening day roster. How about that? Why not? Why not? What do you got to lose?
Paul, a lot, actually. I mean, you could theoretically ruin him as a player if you bring him up too early. He might lose confidence. He might not be the same guy.
Fuck it. Bring him up. Bring him up. Bring him up. Just bring Cam Smith up to the show, okay? I want to forget about Kyle Tucker. I want to forget about Alex Bregman. This is how you help me do it. I have ADD. I can't remember a goddamn thing from basically what I said on today's radio show. Doesn't matter. Here's what you got to do. Just bring him up to the Major League roster. Everyone's going to forget. Everyone's going to forget when you got Mr. Aircraft Carrier himself out there going oppo with 2 bombs in his first spring training game. Could Cam Smith break the home run record for spring training? I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I mean, shit. 2 home runs his first game. Multiply that by like 30 or so. Yeah, I think he could, theoretically. So he's already made the Major League roster for opening day in my book.
Paul, that's crazy.
Whatever, guys. I just want to move on, okay? Your boy got back on the dating apps. He is a little bit thirsty, and I'm thirsty for a young prospect who's going to be here for a while, for the long haul, Especially if they look like an aircraft carrier. Paul, you're making this too sexual. Fine. I'm sorry. I'm just saying how I feel right now. Come Up King 91 asks, Paul, are you at home? Are we seeing your man cave? Yes, this is actually my office. I have a 2-bedroom condo. It's a fun time living in a condo. Did you know I pay an HOA? Yes, I own my place. It's small, but it does have 2 bedrooms. It has 2 baths. Don't ask about the status of those baths. Don't ask about the popcorn ceiling, okay? Just know I own my place. It's a condo. And sure, this does look like it could be my mother's basement, but it's also my guest bedroom. How about that? Some comments here. David Tovar says, sign Cam Smith to a 10-year extension right now. Sign him early. Ronald Acuna style. You might have to do that at gunpoint. I think he knows he's good. If he's hitting 2 oppo home runs right away, and he's saying, yeah, generally I like to hit it the opposite way. I mean, that's a good sign. Here's more from Cam Smith. This is courtesy of Adam Spillane. I guess Cam Smith is also prioritizing exactly what the Astros want, at least based off of what we've heard from both Dana Brown and Joe Espada this offseason. Defense wins championships.
Yeah, defense, 100%. I'm working with Tony, our third base coach. He came from the Arizona Diamondbacks. Been working with him and Nick Ortiz a lot, focused on defense more than I ever have been. So they take pride in that here, and that's what I got to take pride in now in my game.
Joe Espada, if you watched yesterday's show and during his rather beginning of the season speech to the players where he's explaining how leadership works and then says, yeah, defense is a priority. Defense is a priority if you're bringing in Christian Walker. Defense is a priority, say you were to end up getting Nolan Arenado. I don't know if that's still on the front burner, especially after a day like this from Cam Smith. But, I mean, you've brought in some gloves, and you're hoping that defensively you'll be a little bit better. Brendan Rodgers has won a Gold Glove in the past. I don't know if he's a good enough hitter away from Coors Field, but that's a second baseman you brought in from Colorado. So certainly some intriguing new faces in the Houston Astros clubhouse, specifically Cam Smith. What a day for him. Other notes from Astros spring training. Joe Espada had this to say about Cam Smith after his performance today. Quote, "It doesn't look like his first spring training camp. And he's walking into an organization that has had a lot of success. And he feels like he can be a part of this. He can be a part of our success, and he's excited to be here." Okay, I mean, rather generic statement, but hey, I would like to see him be a part of this sooner rather than later. And if we're being realistic, obviously I'm joking a little bit, trying to sound excited talking about spring training baseball. If we're being realistic, what are the chances that we actually see Cam Smith in the near future? Do we see him by June 1st or whenever is the ideal time for the Astros so that they don't lose a year of service time for a year Smith doesn't play the entirety of the year? I think it's actually earlier than June 1st. I say that because last year we saw Dana Brown throw young players into early spots. There wasn't a lot of patience with Dana Brown. It was, all right, fuck it. Let's put this young guy in. Joey Loperfido, Blair Henley, for God's sakes. There were enough names last year that, honestly, off the top of my head, I don't remember every single young guy that they put in there, you know? So the guy who's clearly your best prospect, who's also looking like this in spring training, it's going to lend itself to, at the very least, some, whether they be fans or media, saying, fuck it, put in Cam Smith. So I think you could see him sooner rather than later. And I definitely think that you got to be patient with this Nolan Arenado stuff. We talked about him yesterday. I don't really see the point of trading for Nolan Arenado because I think that they should be prioritizing looking at outfield help. But if Cam Smith continues this, it's one game. It's just one game. There are weird possibilities that maybe you say, let's do it. Let's make him the opening day starter at third base. So we'll see what happens on that front. I saw a really funny tweet, by the way, from Ari Alexander of Channel 2. It's about Cam Smith. And here it is. Let me zoom in so that you can actually see it if you're watching along on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook or Twitter/X or on Instagram. Might be a little tough for you to see on Instagram. Someone from the Cubs organization to me, upon seeing Cam Smith highlights, he had 2 Oppo Field home runs today. "Tell Cam I miss him." Ari continued by saying, "Was mostly meant on a personal level." Huh? He has glowing reviews from the Cubs organization about his personality and makeup. And now he's bombing balls to the opposite field. It's a weird tweet. Flexing access a little bit, but hey, Ari, do you? It's fine. It's fine. We'll see what happens. Because Cam Smith, everyone loves him. Come Up King 91 says it's just me here anyway. Hey, man, Instagram, some people show up occasionally. Definitely less time spent listening on the gram side of things. And I am a little unhinged today. That's right. About to go on a 3-day vacation, and I've had a preposterous amount of coffee. Tamesia Garner says today was the Cam Smith show. Tovar continues, Nolan Arenado is washed. He can keep his ass in St. Louis with his no trade clause having ass. Hey. I mean, he might waive it now. At least that's the latest report. Not much of a report. More news from West Palm Beach. You've got Christian Walker, another new Astro. He doubled today. He looks the part. Solid-sized man. I don't know. What else do you want me to talk about when it comes to spring training breakdowns? Bryce Matthews played a little second base, another one of the Astros prospects that people have been excited about. Didn't hear anything about Jacob Melton. Also, we have our standard reports about pitchers coming from spring training. No matter what a pitcher in spring training does, whether he has a good day or a bad day, the guy's always going to tell you that he felt good out there. First off, Ronel Blanco, who got the start today. It's the surprise of the Astros pitching staff last year. Ronel Blanco, per Adam Spillane, was happy with his spring debut. He said he's working on his mechanics, rhythm, and pitching up in the zone. Okay. What are his numbers for Ronel Blanco in this game? Do they actually lend itself to feeling good about yourself? Oh, he threw an inning and a third and allowed 5 hits and 3 earned runs? He was happy with his spring debut, though. It's so funny. Like, how are you happy with a performance like that? This is just a spring training thing. But pitchers always are like, yeah, I felt good out there. Dude, you allowed 3 earned runs in an inning and a third. His ERA was 20 for that performance. Again, I'm not a baseball guy. I always laugh, though, when I see that. Hayden Wesneski was asked about his performance today. The Astros apparently want him to add a curveball. He said it felt good. He was landing it early. And what were Wesneski's numbers in today's game? 2 innings pitched. He did have 3 strikeouts. That's nice. But he also did allow, I believe, a home run. 2 hits. His ERA 4.5. It's a little bit more to write home about from Hayden Wesneski. Forrest Whitley was out there. Whitley had a 1-2-3 inning with 2 strikeouts. Hell yeah. We might finally see Forrest Whitley do anything. That would be really nice if that's something that goes down. More notes from Astros spring training. We didn't touch on this yesterday, but Jim Crane joined the Astros radio broadcast, and when asked about Alex Bregman leaving for Boston, finally weighed in on it, said, quote, "We felt we made a pretty good offer to Alex Bregman, and it didn't work out. So he was on state media, didn't meet with the rest of Houston sports media. No questions fielded afterwards." It is a little frustrating how, all right, that's it, the Astros were with Alex Bregman. I'm not saying you needed to throw him a parade or anything like that, but when Dana Brown was asked about Bregman, he basically said, well, the trade's not finalized, so I can't really comment on it yet. Joe Espada was more effusive in his praise, and Jose Altuve really was. And it's not like Alex Bregman said much about the Astros when he joined them, so perhaps there's some sour feelings there. But it would have been nice for a little more from those guys. And maybe there was a little bit more. That's all that was tweeted about from that radio broadcast. I'm not going to go listen to it. Spring training radio broadcast. You kidding me? Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, and Jeremy Pena are going to make their Astro debuts at some point this week. Altuve will be playing in left field. Josh Hader and Brian Abreu, the plan is that the Astros will give them a lighter workload this year. Will be interesting to see how that works, given that Ryan Presley is gone. You're putting a lot of pressure on Forrest Whitley, who you've actually seen for a change. And on top of that, Lance McCullers is asked. Lance McCullers, this is the update on him. Lance McCullers, I'm assuming, will be in the bullpen, because I think it's going to be tough for him to crack a spot in the starting rotation, just given how long he's been away. He threw a 35-pitch bullpen with velocity of 89 to 91 miles per hour. He expects to throw his first live batting practice this weekend, saying, quote, "I'm feeling really good. I'm recovering really, really great." Well, that's nice. Pitchers, again, always will say that they feel great. Also, Rob Manfred was at Astros spring training today. So there you go, guys. There you go. Let's read some more comments here. Holly says that Christian Walker looked good. That's right. He had that double. David Tovar says Hayden Wesneski is the next Sandy Koufax. That would be sweet. Sandy Koufax. Baller. Also, World War II veteran? Am I wrong on that one? Let's look that up. Sandy Koufax, military service. He served in the Army Reserve from 57 to 59. Okay. Gotcha. Also refused to pitch in Game 1 of the 1965 World Series because it was on Yom Kippur. How about that? Retired from baseball due to chronic elbow pain. Perhaps a UCL injury, but one of the greatest pitchers ever, and that's Hayden Wesneski. Hedera says Jacob Melton's injured and says play Cam Smith in right field right now. I don't think it should be off the table for the Astros to consider Smith in the outfield. I really don't, but I'm a little wacky when it comes to baseball. Like, just put guys out there. See what happens. How bad could Cam Smith be in right field? What if he's incredible? David Tovar says, I need Lance McCullers' energy on this squad. Yeah, we do need to have that one guy who's chirping and sometimes getting into fights even though he's injured. El Mimo asks this question. We could do a little Ask a Lot anything. I'm about to go on vacation. Are you looking for Latinas, Black Beauties, or Snow Bunnies? Listen, I am an equal opportunity lover. Do you know what I'm looking for? I'm looking for people that, get this, have a butt and abs. So basically, soccer players. Now you know. Now you know. El Mimo also says, as long as the Astros don't use Brian Abreu and Josh Hader in games where the Astros are losing by 3 or more, that should fix the issue. You would think so. Holly asks, do you see John Singleton making the team? It's going to be tough because first base is his primary position and they brought in Christian Walker. He's in the best shape he's ever been in, but did you like John Singleton as a reserve? Do you keep Singleton as a reserve when he's out of options over some of your younger players? I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be really tough. Hedera says, Springer, Correa, Tucker all plan to leave unless being overpaid because the Astros delayed bringing them to the majors. Well, maybe this will be something that Dana Brown is different with going forward. I hope that's the case. You're definitely right. Manipulating service time is such a cunty move. Sorry for my French. I really hate that a player who might be ready to play, you wait until June or July to play him just so you have him for an extra year and you have him at the end of that season. Play a guy early, and if you play the guy early, maybe he'll actually play ball with you when it comes to an early contract that's team friendly. Batman. Thanks for weighing in, Batman. Someone told me Yordan will play catcher. Is that true? That is not true. I don't think that Yordan's going to play much of anything in the field except for the occasional left field to perhaps spell for Jose Altuve, which is just so weird to think about, isn't it? All right, guys. You want to weigh in on the Astros, you can on the chats on YouTube at Paul Gallant. If you haven't liked this video and subscribed already, what are you even doing? You can also give me a sub on Twitch at Gallant Says, Facebook.com/Paul Gallant Sports if you're a Facebooker. I'm on Twitter and X at Gallant Says, TikTok at Gallant Says, and Instagram at Sports Gallant. Sometimes I post clips from the show to those two accounts. DeMeco Ryans, head coach of the Houston Texans, is at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis, which is underway right now. DeMeco was asked about Stephon Diggs and his future with the Houston Texans. He is a free agent coming off of that knee injury that he suffered midway through last year. Here is what DeMeco had to say about Stephon Diggs.
We loved having Steph on our team. We'll see how things work out with him. Steph, he brought, you talk about energy, you talk about leadership, he brought a lot to our team. So it hurt us down the stretch not having Steph, not having Tank. You need those playmakers, especially at the wide receiver position. Right? It just enhances your ability to be able to move the football down the field, score points. So that is an area of emphasis for us, is looking at the wide receiver.
So that video courtesy of Aaron Wilson of Channel 2. He's got a YouTube channel. You should subscribe to that if you want to get all the Texans sound you possibly can and hear straight from the players and the coaches. DeMeco spoke about Stephon in the past tense there. That's the way to go about it. The only way that Stephon Diggs should come back to the Texans is if he takes a team-friendly deal that's borderline disrespectful. And would Diggs want to do that? I don't know. Maybe he really liked working with C.J. Stroud. Did seem like he got along with Tank Dell, with Nico Collins, and the Texans wide receiver room. And he did have an impact last year. Did he have the kind of impact that people were expecting? No. Will he still be the same player after suffering a knee injury? I'm skeptical about that. Never want to write a guy off, but Diggs has been in the league for a very long time. Diggs and Cooper Kupp are two wide receivers that, for Diggs, I'm offering very little to in free agency. And for Cooper Kupp, I am waiting to see if the Rams cut him. I don't think that the Texans should be bending over backwards, doing risky things like trading for wide receivers when last year that Stephon Diggs trade is a failure, even if it's a failure with extenuating circumstances that weren't Nick Caserio and the Texans' fault. You got him for 8 games on a 1-year contract. He is now a free agent. Did he get you any further than you got the year before? You had a more respectable outing against the Chiefs than you did against the Ravens in the second round of the playoffs. But you still lost, and Diggs wasn't there, and now he's not here next year. So maybe you get a compensatory pick if Diggs goes elsewhere, and I am curious as to how aggressive the Texans are in free agency, given how aggressive they were last year. But the second part from DeMeco Ryans that you heard right there is that wide receiver is a position that they are looking at, both in free agency and in the draft, and they should. They should. But also it is on C.J. Stroud and Nick Caley, new offensive coordinator, to raise the level of play of all the Texans wide receivers. They should be able to get more out of less. Jorge Garcia says neither Kupp or Diggs excite me. They're toast. David Tovar says he's done with Diggs. Give me Deebo Samuel for a 6th round and restructure contract. 6th round pick ain't going to do it, I don't think. It might be more like a 4th, 3rd, something like that. But I think that trading for wide receivers like that are probably going to cost you closer to a 2nd, if not a 1st round pick. I think there will be a market for Deebo Samuel, just given how unique he is as a receiver. But as a receiver, there are certainly some things that he doesn't necessarily bring to the table. He's more of a get the ball in his hands kind of guy than he is someone you're trusting to run precise routes. So we'll see what happens on that front, but I really want the Texans to stay away from trading for a wide receiver. I know it's a tempting thing that a lot of people will discuss on social media, and I try not to roll my eyes when I see it because I feel like everyone just plays too much fantasy football and you see big names and you're like, fuck it, get that guy. Fuck it, get that guy. Rack up the credit card debt. Who cares about the draft picks going forward? But it would be nice to have a 2nd round pick this year because the Texans do need to figure out how to get more help on the offensive line, whether that would be trading that 2nd round pick for an offensive lineman or using that 2nd round pick on an offensive lineman. More from DeMeco Ryans. This is also with Aaron Wilson of Channel 2. Here he is talking about that offensive line, which, of course, is a big topic of discussion for the Texans going into the season.
We can continue to improve on the offensive line, as everyone knows. Like we had some miscues there. I think, hitting the reset button will allow us to, the guys we have, they played some good ball. It wasn't all bad. Everybody had some bad reps here and there. O-line, D-line, a lot of guys have bad reps, but collectively, I think we can do a better job of just everybody being on the same page, hearing one voice of how we're communicating to the offensive line, and I think that'll help the guys that we have right now.
He talks about communication on the offensive line. You know what would help as that one voice if the quarterback, C.J. Stroud, was the one voice that's doing the majority of the communication on the offensive line, which is something that hasn't happened yet. If you read that expose that DJ Bien-Aimé put together, or if you've been paying attention to a lot of the voices that cover the Houston Texans, I know Big Sarge has been beating that drum for a little bit. Stroud was not calling plays at the line of scrimmage. His offensive line was calling out the mic and all those things that you see before a play. It's time for Stroud to take on more of a role on that front. So I think that'll help. But I am hoping that the Texans, if you're going to trade for anybody this offseason, trade for a veteran offensive lineman. It is such an uphill battle for any young offensive lineman coming into the league. It's really hard. You got limited offseason workouts. You can't go 100% physically with defensive linemen, even in training camp, really. It's just so hard to come into this league and succeed right away. Can you trade a mid-round draft pick for somebody who's maybe in a difficult contract situation? Now, you do have to remember that a lot of offensive linemen, if a team's willing to trade them, there's probably some doubt, some skepticism that they have about that offensive lineman. So something to keep in the back of your mind. But if the Texans are going to upgrade the offensive line in any way this offseason, I would hope that it's done with a veteran of some sort. Here is more from DeMeco Ryans talking about offensive linemen, courtesy of Aaron Wilson, Channel 2.
When is they needing to add to it, or is it more so working with what you guys are?
Every year, for me, we're looking to add to everyone. I think you have to continue to add and get younger, improve your depth at every position. So for me, everyone needs a guy.
It's such a generic way of answering it. DeMeco basically says, yeah, we need everything. Okay. And you shouldn't go into a draft thinking to yourself, we got to draft guys at this position. You should not hamstring yourself. And I think that the Texans do deserve some credit for what they have done in the draft. I know people get mad about the Kenyon Green pick, but, I mean, have they not crushed just about every single defensive back pick? Derek Stingley a couple of years ago. He had the injury issues, but now he's one of the top corners in the NFL. This past draft, Kamari Lassiter, Kalen Bullock. I mean, Jesus. They have revamped this secondary quickly. And sure, there are still some guys in that secondary that you look at and you wonder about what's Jimmy Ward's status going forward. But, I mean, someone I didn't even mention along the way, Jalen Petrie, who's really good as a nickel player. They've done a great job of turning over the defensive backfield. Will Anderson's been awesome to open up. They have found a way to plug and play on the defensive line. They bring in Danielle Hunter. There's been a lot of things to compliment Nick Caserio for. Nico Collins is a third-round pick. Tank Dell's a third-round pick. It's a shame he's hurt, but Dell's giving you more than you'd ever expect out of a third-round pick at wide receiver. I have a lot of faith in Nick Caserio running the show, and it seems like he and DeMeco Ryans have a really good relationship. And DeMeco actually talked about that today at a press conference at the NFL Combine. Here is DeMeco Ryans.
Year 3 for myself and Nick working together, and it's been seamless. It's easy because we see football the same. We know the type of players that we want on our team. We know that mindset that we're looking for in players. It's guys who have that relentless mindset, guys who love football. Those guys jump out to us, right? Guys who are leaders, that jumps out to us. Those characteristics that they don't lose those when they come into the NFL. If guys were leaders at college, guys played with a certain play style and a demeanor in college, that's going to carry over to the NFL. So those are the type of players we look for, and we want good people.
They want good guys. I know that used to drive Texans fans mad. Good guys. We did a show a couple of days ago, and I was wondering, who's going to be the next Houston Texans fall guy, say things don't go according to plan this coming season. And I know a lot of people look at Nick Caserio, but I don't know, man. The way that they talk about one another and the way that I've seen them interact with one another when they've been around each other, it really does feel like they have a really good partnership, to the point that I think that they'd want to stick around with one another. And say things hit the fan, maybe the Texans feel like they don't have a choice. Cal McNair, Hannah McNair think the writing is on the wall. We got to do something about this. But I don't think it's going to be Caserio as the next fall guy. I think he has done a really good job in a lot of ways. The offensive line's just been the big problem. I mean, the guy that they really overpaid for, with Bill O'Brien running the show, Laramie Tunsil, he's still around. Titus Howard might have been a reach at the first round. He's been solid for you, but has he ever been great? Was he worthy of that extension he got? Was Shaq Mason worthy of that extension before he had played a snap for you? Based off of last year, no. Juice Scruggs, is year 3 going to be the year? Kenyon Green, year 3 wasn't the year for him. I don't know if any year is going to be the year for Kenyon Green. Blake Fisher, did we like what we saw last year? I don't know. That's what you look at with Nick Caserio, and you maybe have some questions about that. But it is hard to find offensive linemen anywhere. And the hope is that Bobby Slowick and Chris Strausser or Chris Broussarded, you're hoping they were the stupidest fucking coaches alive. And you hate to say it like that. I hope those guys do well in their next stop. But that does seem to be the hope right now, because I don't know how you turn over the entire offensive line in one offseason. I think it really is about, well, if we get better coaches, these guys have the talent, they can figure it out. This is more from DeMeco Ryans talking about what kind of player the Houston Texans are looking for in the draft.
All right, and that's the thing that me and Nick agree on the most. You want to win, but you want to win with great people. And we both believe that you can do that, and we've shown that by some of the guys we drafted in CJ, Will, Kamari, Henry. It's just a lot of great people, and it's fun when you're working with great people who are talented and they're like-minded, and we're all reaching that same goal.
Hell yeah. I like to have good dudes around. I do like that the Texans generally don't have, Deshaun Watsons anymore. At least we believe for now. That they've stayed away from the Justin Tuckers of the world. That's nice. More from DeMeco Ryans. Hey, we were talking about Stephon Diggs a little bit ago. What's the latest on Tank Dell, who has had the absolute worst fucking luck when it comes to health over the course of the last year? breaks a leg, gets shot, blows every single ligament in his knee. Here's DeMeco.
Yeah, Tank he's still going along through the process of recovering and healing. But he's in great spirits. That's the main thing about.
I'd like to hear he's in better than great spirits. Maybe that's DeMeco being realistic and realizing it's going to be really tough for Tank Dell to come back from what he dealt with this past offseason and the way he got injured in that game against the Chiefs.
Tank, he's got a smile on his face while he's going through the rehab process, so he's headed there. In due time, he'll be back.
In due time, he'll be back. Well, I hope so. I really do. That's just the worst luck. And I feel bad for Jared Wayne, that receiver who was in there in that game and sees the ball up in the air. He's running downfield. He thinks it might be for him. He dives into Dell as Dell catches that touchdown pass. It's amazing Dell completed that catch, considering every fucking ligament in his knee collapsed under that. It's also crazy that the Texans scored in the games against the Chiefs 2 second-half touchdowns that would have tied the game, and then they missed the extra point right afterwards. Kaimi Fairbairn had such a good year, and then just a couple of moments, you're like, what the fuck, man? You can hit every field goal from 50-plus yards with extra points. Not a lock? What's up with that? DeMeco Ryans was asked about offensive linemen also at the NFL Combine. You heard him talking with Aaron Wilson. Here he is speaking at the podium about offensive linemen and what the Texans are looking for.
Yeah, getting better protection for CJ is definitely a main point of emphasis for us. Right? We know, when CJ is protected, he has a clean pocket. Right? He's a pretty good quarterback. And I constantly show guys clips in our meeting after a game of plays when we protect well and we have a good pocket. I'll show guys explosive, outstanding throws CJ is able to make in the middle of the field, along the sideline. Like, he's capable of making any throw on the football field, but it's just a matter of protecting him and giving him that comfort when he's in the pocket. When we do that, we can move the ball, we can make plays. So that is a point of emphasis for us of making sure he is protected better.
Yeah. I mean, we all know it. They're going to be looking at the offensive line in the draft. They're going to be looking at the offensive line in free agency. Jorge Garcia comments, I feel offensive line is very scheme dependent. We can sign and draft one that fits our scheme. Theoretically, but I think what's important to note, what Nick Caserio and Nick Haley and I think DeMeco indirectly have said this offseason, we're going to try to cater our team to what our players do best. And I hope that there is some sort of commonality among the offensive linemen that will allow Nick Haley to think of something that makes this offensive line gel together more than it did. There's some sort of identity he can build with it. Hey, how do we just do basic things like pick up stunts, which they couldn't do last year? How do we become more angry as a run blocking team? Because they really struggled on that front. More DeMeco Ryans talking about what he wants to see out of his offensive linemen.
When I look at offensive linemen, first and foremost, I'm looking at, pass protection. Like, how good is the guy in pass protection? And then, for everyone, for me speaking, offensive linemen, I want to see that grit. I want to see that toughness, right, that nastiness of how guys are finishing their block.
He continued by saying what type of leaders these guys are, how passionate they are about football. That's very important to me when it comes to the offensive linemen. So we'll see if they're able to find guys that actually can, do those things. I think that's a rather vague way of describing offensive linemen. And honestly, if DeMeco had said, we just want guys who are fucking good, I think we all would have taken it. So that was DeMeco Ryans at the NFL Combine. I think Nick Caserio will speak tomorrow, and we all know Robo Caserio tends to stretch his words out. David Tovar is excited about Brian Thomas Jr. going to the Jaguars. I think he's mad about it, actually, reading the text a little bit further. Going to the Jaguars with our pick pisses me off. Imagine him with Nico, bro. Yes, of course. But this is the way that the draft goes. You're not going to be able to get everybody, and there's a chance that they wouldn't have taken Brian Thomas Jr. there. Think about it. You you had going into this year Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell? Did you want to get Brian Thomas Jr. too? Like 4 wide receivers every play? Jorge Garcia says, I think we should draft the guy from Ohio State, Egbuka, in the first, and then trade and sign an offensive lineman. That might be the way they go. I think a lot of mock drafts are projecting that. I don't really pay a lot of attention to mock drafts because it's all hypothetical conversations. I feel like they're kind of a waste of effort and time. But I know a lot of people like the NFL draft, and I'm going to try going forward to stop poo-pooing everything that I don't really like. But I will poo-poo the Dallas Cowboys. It must suck to be a Dallas sports fan right now. Stephen Jones, the, I guess, president of the Dallas Cowboys, he spoke at the NFL Combine. Shout out to Dallas media asking Stephen Jones about the disaster that is the Dallas Mavericks right now.
When you see what's happening to the Mavericks and their fan base, what's your reaction to stuff like that?
We have to worry about the Cowboys. I mean, I have nothing but respect for the Mavericks and what Mark's done, and now the Adelsons, nothing but respect. And
I understand that you have to worry about the Cowboys, but when a team in town royally fucks up on the PR side of things, you should pay attention. You gotta pay attention. You can't just look at what's going on down the street, or I guess actually in Dallas proper instead of in Arlington, and say, oh, that'll never happen to us, where you got an outright revolt from the fans. I think Cowboys fans are really close to doing that, and obviously they have a national brand, so maybe that always gives them a built-in loyalty that even if the people in Dallas don't support him, the people across the country will support him because of the star on the side of the helmet. But I don't know. The Cowboys are starting to become uncool. I don't know if we see as many bandwagon Cowboy fans the way that we did with guys who were maybe my age, who grew up in the 90s and saw the awesome teams that they had with Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin and all those other players, Deion Sanders for a time. I wonder about that. More from Stephen Jones.
It'd be unfair for me to make any comment about someone else's business and, you know, what they're doing. We've got our hands full with our own, and certainly we've got a lot of wood to chop and work to do here. And but nothing but respect for that franchise and what they've accomplished.
Honestly, let's be honest. That's repetitive, Paul. Let's be honest here. He is so thankful that the Mavericks traded Luka Doncic because it takes off all the focus of Dallas sports fans from him. And the rather condescending press conference that he had when the Cowboys hired Brian Schottenheimer, because that was super condescending. He was using air quotes to describe fan criticism as if there was nothing to actually criticize here. More Stephen Jones.
You see the fans get your fans get a little upset too.
Really?
But to see the fans respond the way they did, going outside the arena with caskets and
like I said, I don't really want to comment on the Mavericks. I understand. I want ours to be emotional, and I want them to care. I mean, certainly, the record we had last year, and our postseason lack of success, if you will.
Now he fucking acknowledges it. That pissed me off if I'm a Cowboys fan because, I mean, it'd been, 3 decades since you won a Super Bowl, and there he is at that introductory press conference hiring the most underwhelming fucking candidate possible. No offense, Brian Schottenheimer. It's not getting people excited, even if he does end up being successful. I know it's not all about that, but you want to give your fans some hope. You got to give them some sort of drug to get excited for the year. And there he was, basically like, our lack of success. Yeah, 12 wins in a season isn't enough. The Texans have been more successful than you of late. Facts.
I understand that completely. I want them to be emotional about that, and we have to be better. And we're always looking for ways to improve our team and, how to take the next step. I mean, certainly, we've been through a lot this offseason already. With Coach Schottenheimer and him hiring the staff, and now our preparation for, the personnel side of things as we come up here to the Combine. Obviously, it's a place where everybody meets with all the representatives of the potential free agents. So a lot of work going on right now, but something we embrace. And, we just want to bring that success in the postseason and ultimately a championship to our fan base. They deserve it, and certainly deserve to, be critical and emotional about it.
You didn't feel that way earlier this offseason, Steven. Nice about face, but it might be too late. This final follow-up question is going to get some very cutesy buzzwords that I'm sure the self-loathing Cowboys fans out there will probably be repeating, especially if the Cowboys don't do anything in the coming weeks to improve the roster.
What do you say to them? What do you say to the fans, though, that specifically this offseason want to see you guys be more aggressive?
That we're going to look at everything we can. We're going to be selectively aggressive. We obviously, there's things in this league you have to, you have certain amount of resources they allow you to have, and we'll look at that. But we're going to try to improve our football team. Not try. We're going to improve our football team, and we expect to have success next year.
Selectively aggressive. I mean, fuck that. We're going to be selectively aggressive. It seemed like you were selectively aggressive last offseason. So what's the deal? And it's been such a strange offseason for the Dallas Cowboys, and it's been very fun to sit back and make fun of from afar. The Micah Parsons show, his podcast, has been fun. He said there's definitely a plan in place for a second contract. He's scheduled to make $24 million against the cap this year. The Cowboys have to give him some sort of extension if they want to free up some cap space in the immediate future to be selectively aggressive. And I wonder if they do it because, part of the questions that were directed at Stephen Jones were about how Micah Parsons wants the Cowboys to be aggressive. But it's been funny keeping tabs on what Micah Parsons says. Do you remember what he said after the Texans kicked their ass on Monday Night Football? Here's Micah Parsons on his podcast.
I'm going to put this out there. We're a damn good football team. I know the scores ain't showing it, and I know obviously people feel like we got so many missing pieces, but I just truly believe you almost got to go to things like the things that we messing up on. I think our defense is really turning things around. Up until that last quarter when they got that touchdown defense, we only really gave up those 2 touchdowns in that first quarter. But other than that, we gave up 6 points in the other 2 quarters.
Flexing about performance against the Texans offense, and it doesn't really age particularly well. But, that's generally the Micah Parsons podcast experience. So he wants the Cowboys to be aggressive, even though last year he thought the Cowboys were a damn good football team. But while he thinks that last year's Cowboys were a damn good football team, he doesn't think that Derrick Henry would have helped them last year. And then after the fact, he's asking, why do so many people hate my podcast? Well, I think it's because you're all over the place, Micah. Someone needs to write down your takes so you can remember where they are. I feel like, much like Chris Canty on ESPN Radio, who got pantsed by one of his producers for saying that he has Jalen Hurts as a top 10 quarterback when earlier in the year he didn't have him as a top 10 quarterback. This is one of those situations where somebody needs to write down what you say. I relate. I forget half the shit I say. It would be nice to have someone writing down all my takes and that there was some sort of artificial intelligence app that would, as I'm about to say something that I strongly believe, hey, Paul, this does not run consistently with the things that you have said before. I would like to have some sort of implant like that. But it's a rough offseason for the Cowboys. I don't know how many people saw this, too. You even got Cowboys players admitting that Eagles fans are a little more passionate. This is CeeDee Lamb.
Who has a more passionate fan base, the Eagles or the Cowboys?
I can answer that. Eagles.
Eagles?
They're crazy. Our Cowboys, our fans are deep, but they not. I don't want to say nothing crazy, but the Eagles got it.
Yeah, the Eagles do have it. I don't think that's a debate. But, you got CeeDee Lamb basically saying Eagles fans are more passionate. And then you got the most passionate Cowboys fan ever, and you guys all know this guy, essentially confirming what CD had to say.
Which has led me to this. It has come to this for me. Hang on. I have now purchased with my own money this jersey featuring a quarterback I have always loved, Jalen Hurts. And a team I have always hated, the freaking Philadelphia Eagles. I hate this color. It makes me sick at my stomach. And it has come to this, ladies and gentlemen. Behold, Cowboy Nation.
He's wearing an Eagles jersey now. Jalen Hurts. Well, the size are funny.
What do you think? Fly, Eagles, fly. It's your fault, Jerry Jones. You made me do this.
It's your fault, Jer Bear.
Shoes to match. You like it?
It's been fun watching not tethered to Fox Sports Skip Bayless continue to have takes on things. I guess if there's anything to be excited about if you're a Cowboys fan, it's this. This is Clayton Adams, their new offensive coordinator.
What do you want in your offensive lineman?
The same thing that I want from every player on offense, and that is to create violence in the game, be aggressive, run, hit. I think that every decision that we make schematically needs to lean that direction. So if there's gray area, what is going to allow these guys to play more free and run and hit and be violent?
Violence! I choose violence. I like that. So, yeah, I mean, you hired Brian Schottenheimer, and Clayton Adams is your offensive coordinator, but at least he's talking about violence. That's fun. They're going to need a lot of, I think, help this offseason. They were, I mean, I go back and forth with this. I do think that there are some really good players on the Cowboys right now. I think to what Micah Parsons is saying, he's not entirely wrong here. But also, at the same time, you have to get it. What am I trying to say here? Like, it feels like there's talent there. It's just they're going to have to rebuild the parts of the team that they took a long time to build. Like Zach Martin's retiring, so you got to rebuild that entire offensive line. Are you going to be able to do it in one offseason? I mean, the Texans, I guess, are in better shape than them. At least they have Laramie Tunsil. Who else can we make fun of at the NFL Combine? How about the Jacksonville Jaguars? So they introduced their new general manager. I keep on forgetting his name. I'm trying not to say pee pants because he looks so young. He's only a couple of years younger than me, but I look significantly older than him. James Gladstone. Sounds like a Nepo baby. No offense to James Gladstone. This is how the Jaguars' introductory press conference for new GM James Gladstone began. You can see James Gladstone over to the left right there, looking very, very young, but wearing a rather dapper teal suit.
For Tony Baselli or Tony Khan, collaboration's a great buzzword, and I get it, that's an ideal, being aligned. The last three coaching staffs here pointed fingers like I've never seen in my life at each other, the staff and the GM. Why do you think this is going to be different?
Why is this going to be different? And then look at the face right there of Tony Khan. Can I zoom in any further? No, I guess I can't. But people were zooming in on his face because he seemed to show like a little bit of a horrified look there. More from new Jaguars general manager James Gladstone. Here he is speaking in LinkedInese.
The current mode of operation is in rhythm. The cadence is in place. So my intent here through this initial spring is to really calibrate my own mode of operation to the current mode of operation, insert some specific efficiencies that'll help me better understand our group's insights and perspectives, and then assess at the end of this spring what types of things we can roll out into the future. But we'll certainly, put the pedal to the metal on a lot of advanced sort of modes of operation.
Modes of operation. Advanced modes of operation. Good God. Sounds like a guy who's going to be using a lot of LinkedIn terminology, and perhaps there's going to be a lot of Zoom meetings for the Jaguars going forward. I got to say, like, if someone like me was the general manager of the Jaguars, would you trust them? I mean, look at me. Look at that guy. Young guy, kind of skinny, pencil neck, a little nerdy. I am the same thing. Would you trust that guy running the show? Here he is. I don't even know what he was trying to say here, but James Gladstone, general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Wanted to ask you about sort of your philosophy of player identification. I saw somebody, Matt Miller, I think, tweeted something about pro-ready players versus traits players. Can you give a little deep dive into what you look for, particularly with college players, and what you will do to try to bring those guys who can fit into Liam's system right away?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked. I think it's pretty simple from my perspective. We will prioritize people and players that are intangibly rich. And by doing so, they will elevate our ecosystem, our team, by being nothing more than themselves. So it's as simple as that.
Wow, that's so simple. Intangibly rich. Man, this guy, it's like he's reading straight from Jack Easterby's LinkedIn. Good for him getting a general manager's job. If he gets one, he'll probably get another. But people are looking at him, and the face just ain't helping. And this is a couple days later at the NFL Combine. I don't know why the very, very clickbaity account at ML Football on Twitter /X is posting something with a caption like this. But if you can see it here, if you zoom in close enough, it looks like he's trying to grow out a mustache. It really looks like he's trying to grow out a mustache here. Archerdamus Picks says James Gladstone, new Jaguars GM, looks like the skinny guy from Road Trip. I'm not going to go that far. I think he looks a lot closer to me. I really do. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I just think he looks young. And I think right now he's trying to grow some facial hair to look less young. I shit you not. I think that is truly what he's trying to do here. I mean, you can see it. You can see my mouse on the screen right here. Look, like there's stubble in the mustache area. There's stubble in the beard area. Is his facial hair growing in that quickly in just those spots right there? I doubt it. And as someone who has facial hair grow in super fast, like you either have it or you don't. James, you look young, buddy. You just got to go to the NFL Combine baby-faced. No one's going to think any less of you for that. But now I feel like you're trying to look older. And people can see through it. And by people can see through it, I mean this. But I don't think that this is necessarily going viral. And I'll admit, I'm about to take a 3-day little vacation staying in town. Houston Rodeo, the cook-off's in town. I'm going to have a lot of fun there. Hopefully I see some of you guys out there. If you see me, my pasty-ass face and eyebrows, please say hi. I'm kind of losing it. I'm getting really frustrated with some of the elements of my job and some of the things that I have to dive through. Whether it's the routine bullshit that we get from some of those psychotic Alper and Şengün stans who live in Turkey talking about the Houston Rockets. This is Ime Udoka. When asked about the chuckle / sneer / smirk he had when he was asked about the young Rockets team by what sounded like a foreign reporter who was probably putting together some sort of puff piece. Ime Udoka, the head coach of the Houston Rockets, asked the question that some of those psychotic Turkish Şengün stans who don't give a fuck about the Rockets, they just want Şengün to look good. I hope that they listen to these comments from Ime Udoka after calling him unprofessional for the way that he answered that question.
Well, what I was talking about was I more so chuckled at the tired of hearing young as a reason, I think, more than anything. Yeah, we're talented. Yeah, I think that, I don't know if the reporter was asking me as an excuse for why we lost to Utah. They had a very young team out there as well. Obviously, back-to-back, late night, getting in 3 in the morning, whatever, but the whole league is going through that. They played the night before, and so I think the success we had early, got a little content at times, and we're not doing the things that obviously we were doing early in the season as far as an effort and physicality standpoint. But the growth is what I'm talking about. And it's a year and a half in my tenure here with those guys. Some of those guys 3-4 years in the league, and you want to see steps taken as far as not making the same mistakes and learn.
Exactly. I would sneer too if I'm being asked about my young team that just lost to a 14-win team. I'd be fucking pissed. Oh, this young team, a lot of excitement. That would trigger me too if I were in Udoka's shoes and I'm wired the way that he's wired. So I hope that the Shingun stands, those fucking psychos, saw this. And that's what you are. You're fucking irrational, crazy people. You need help. The world's not out to get Alper and Shingun. He is part of a team, and at times this year, he has looked like he is out of breath, or worse, like Angel Reese under the hoop, which is to say, clank, 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 and the occasional rebound. All of these players can get better. All of these players are young. Ime Udoka is the perfect coach for this team because there are very few coaches out there who are going to take a look at a young team and continue to kick them in the ass as many times as they possibly can. But the backlash to Ime Udoka just sneering at a kiss-ass question about the young Rockets. It's one of many things that's driving me crazy online. There's something else that happened too. A clickbait as fuck post by an entity called Newsweek. It seems like it was at one point a major publication. Truly, I wouldn't be able to tell you. But I saw this headline, and it's so fucking misleading. And worse, it's just straight plagiarism. The headline was this, and I saw some people that are the aggregators of Houston sports, like Michael Schwab, amongst others, talking about this as if it's actually possible that the Houston Texans are about to move. In case you didn't see it, here's the actual headline itself, and they're trying to make me sign up for this fucking rag of a shithole website. Look at this. Here's the headline. Texans considering relocation due to massive stadium renovation hurdle. Now, if you've been watching this show on my YouTube channel, or if you've watched the radio show / listen to the radio show that I do on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5, you would notice that article in the Houston Chronicle suggested that the Texans might seek taxpayer money for a new stadium, which is pretty logical, right? Most NFL teams do that. Most sports franchises do that. They get money from the city to build a new stadium. It's unlikely that they're going to build it all with their own money unless they're going to buy the real estate around the area and then also own that too. And then all of a sudden own a part of town that they have the majority control over. Because it's all about real estate at the end of the day if you aren't just owning a constantly appreciating asset, which is what all sports franchises are. But I read this article and I thought, okay, well, maybe there's a new quote or a source or something like that that makes a relocation, which would likely be to, at worst, Sugarland or the Woodlands or some other part of town. Hopefully not. No offense. On Kirby Drive where the stadium is. I don't really like that area. I know I'm going to be going there a lot over the next couple of weeks to go see the rodeo, but I fucking hate that part of town because it's just like there's nothing there. No real restaurants, no real bars. There's not much there, you know? I want more. I want more from where the Texans play their games. But again, I'm usually going there just for work, in and out. So it's not really the biggest deal for me. Might be for you, though. You want to go to a better part of town. It's a pain in the ass to get to these games as it is. So it might be nice, at the very least, if you're walking around and there's stuff to do before and after the game. But this article, I read it. It is straight fucking copy and paste. It is essentially just a whittled down, slightly more simplistic piece that writes everything that the Houston Chronicle put in its original report about how there is a chance that the Houston Texans could be potentially asking you to fund a new stadium in the near future. But there's a part at the very end of this article, and this is why I'm just so sick of it, because this is all anyone does now. It's just clickbait bullshit, clickbait bullshit, clickbait bullshit. And people get paid for that instead of, I don't know, just reporting on things and trying to do it in an entertaining fashion. But the crux of this article, which led to a headline of Texans considering relocation, is, quote, it would appear that instead of asking taxpayers to cover the massive costs in terms of renovations, the Texans might choose to spend that $1.4 billion on a brand new state-of-the-art stadium in a brand new location. It would appear they might. That's the whole fucking report. Unbelievable. People get paid to do this shit. And I took a look at this guy's account. Oh, he's just a man trying to make money. James Brizuela is a contributing sports writer located in Los Angeles. Okay, so he doesn't know shit about Houston. His focus is on comics, comic book movies, video games, NFL, and MMA. So his fucking fifth priority is the NFL. He has in-depth knowledge of the NFL as a whole, having been a fan for over 30 years and covering the sport over the last 6 years. Like this? Just plagiarizing articles? It's all talking about is comic book history. What the fuck was this article? And why is this so common these days? Articles that are just recaps of other articles posted under websites that are perhaps more nationally geared. A relocation? It's not fucking happening based off of anything that was in that original article or anything that's in that article. What are we doing here? So this shit drives me crazy, especially during this slow time of year, because I see stuff like this and I'm just like, this is so fucking disingenuous, and it's a disservice to the people that actually click on it. It's a waste of their time. So I'm sick of this. I'm sick of clickbait posts. I'm sick of NFL Combine coverage, which is stupid. I'm sick of self-important people like Adrian Wojnarowski. Oh, he had it so hard because he had to bring his cell phone into the fucking shower. It's so tough to be paid millions of dollars to just suck agents off and essentially write about players exactly what an agent tells me to do because I'm first with the reporting. I'm a great reporter. I'm great. Adrian Wojnarowski is now trying to sell his old phones. Woj bombs are history, but you can be a part of them. Own the iPhones I used to report the biggest stories in basketball. Use this link to bid on my original iPhones, NBA draft credentials, and dinner with me and more to help support St. Bonaventure's men's basketball. Draft credentials? You're going to buy credentials that don't work anymore. Dinner with him? Where's he going to take you to? These sports writers generally don't make that much money. Even a guy like him, he's not going to take you somewhere nice. He's not going to pay attention to you. He's going to be on his phone the whole time. The man's the epitome of a fucking phone addict. And this guy is trying to pawn off fucking iPhones that are probably wiped, so no point in getting them, and NBA draft credentials on you to fund a basketball team. This self-important asshole. Like, he might be a nice guy. Fuck that. That's a load of bullshit. Selling your old phone? Fuck you. Like, who the fuck do you think you are? And if anyone bids on that, truly I have no respect for you.
I bought a phone of a journalist.
Cool. Awesome. I wonder how much porn he watched on that. Wonder if there's any residue from that. Like, I'm just tired. I'm tired. I need a break. So I'm going to take a break for the next 3 days. Appreciate y'all for tuning in to today's edition of the Gallant Says podcast. A little unhinged today, wasn't it? Shout out to Cam Smith and the Houston Astros. We do this thing weekdays, generally at 4 p.m. Central Time. Had a show meeting on the radio side of things after today's show, so it took a little bit longer to get going. If you haven't already, please like this video on YouTube and subscribe to my channel. You can also do the same on Twitch. Give me a sub at Gallant Says. On X or Twitter for more written takes at Gallant Says. I'm on Instagram and on TikTok. Instagram at Sports Gallant. Follow me. TikTok at Gallant Says. Follow me. You'll see some clips from the show occasionally. And also, if you're a Facebooker, on Facebook at Paul Gallant Sports, like my page. It's available after the fact wherever you get your podcasts. So if you haven't already, please subscribe, rate, and review me on Apple and Spotify. If you roast my ass, I'll read it. Until Monday, 4 p.m. Central Time, so long, farewell. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of your week.